there are two things that happen when we use the word fine, or when we hear the word fine. And obviously when we say the word fine, we're often, it's very much not about anything. It's like, I call it the polystyrene of vocabulary, because it's useless. You know, there are so many other alternatives, but we use it as an easy option. It's like to hand. And again, it's one of those words that actually has no meaning. Like the word nice. You know, if someone calls you nice, it's not actually that much of a compliment. But the word fine, it just doesn't mean anything. And actually, we use it instead of, and Mark Pitcher, you beautifully, you know, I've seen you here tonight, you beautifully, you know, really explain how we should use other words. And as importantly, if you hear someone say, I'm fine, ask them again. And as Mark says, ask better questions. What do you mean by that? What's really going on for you? And especially right now, and sadly, it didn't help Padma's husband. He left it too late. And that's what I don't want to happen for any more men, if we and me can at all can help it.
Yeah, so we need to challenge ourselves and each other's, don't we? Each other around that word, I think. So you're spot on. And lastly, then, I think another theme that emerged from the book, but certainly during the discussions that the authors have had and when we've done our Facebook groups and stuff, is this whole area of gender and vulnerability. And I know you touched on that at the beginning of this launch, but just touch on that again then, and what you think about that.
Yeah, well, you know, Brené Brown has done wonders at bringing this word to light, and I'm really grateful to her, and I know millions of people are. But vulnerability is something that we have struggled to show, I think, you know, and in certain parts of the world more so than ever, certain cultures. But for men, I just really feels that again, back to the question, the answer to the first question, really, vulnerability isn't encouraged, it is discouraged. And it's worse, and you know, Kapil Gupta, this is the heart of your work, it's seen as a weakness.
Yeah.
And it's not. And Laurel Rond, in your chapter, you beautifully explain how vulnerability is part and parcel of being human. And if as a man you're not tapping into that vulnerability and allowing your, you know, your other parts, the softer parts of you to show, you're not showing yourself, you're not being fully human. And that is, again, dangerous. It's closing yourself off. Numbness is another word that comes up a lot in a lot of the chapters. I felt numb for so long. I turned a part of myself off, because we do. To be fully connected as human, we need to use all of our bodies, all of our masculine and feminine energies. We all have masculine and feminine energies with us. And we must engage all of them to be really present and to be happy and to be content. And that's at the core root of this, right?
Sure. And I'm not sure you envisioned, so thanks, Jo. I'm not sure you envisioned when you had the vision for this book just how challenging things would have become, even more so. And who knows what stories and what research will show about what has been going on in the last few months. But if ever the timing was right for a book like this, I would suggest it's right now. Which brings me on to the other wonderful thing about the launch of this book, and that's what it's in aid of. So it's not just to support people, and men in particular, with their mental health, but we can support something else that's even more wonderful, and that's the charity My Black Dog. So I thought I'd ask Niki to unmute herself. Hello, Niki. I think we've spoke before, haven't we, briefly?
Yeah.
Niki, just tell us, so that people know who are going to buy this book, what the support is. So what was your idea behind starting the charity? Why did you start it, and what's its purpose, and briefly, how does it work?
Yeah, well, I'd be delighted. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see everyone here this evening, and to read the book, which has just been so inspirational and very emotional, actually, to read. And I'll get back to that in a little bit. But to tell you a bit about My Black Dog, it's like this book, a product of my own experiences, because I've suffered from depression my whole life. And for a long time, I was fine. And I very much wanted to shield my family and my friends from my experiences. I didn't want to show them the darkness. I wanted to protect them from it. And I struggled really, really sort of singularly And I felt very alone because I didn't know anyone else who'd been through what I'd been through. And I'd been through a traumatic incident that had brought the depression back, and I had PTSD on top of that. And I had sort of night sweats and anxiety, and it was a very dangerous space for me to be in. And what I desperately wanted was to talk to somebody who understood, because I was scared that if I chose friends or family members and they didn't understand, that I was scared I'd lose them. And I thought, I can't bear it on top of everything else. So I just kind of kept that wall up. And I founded My Black Dog with the idea that, you know, you're not alone. All of our volunteers have been through their own struggles. They get it. They really do. So there's no fear of being left or judged or misunderstood, because they know it and they've come out the other side. And I think as well, that's a beautiful thing to see. And I saw it in lots of the stories that I read in this beautiful book, that there is a way through. But when you're in it, you can't see it. You just think, I'm going to feel this way forever, and there's no way out, and there's no other option. There's always an option, and there's always someone who does understand. So I really wanted to show everyone that you're not alone. You are never alone. And this is, all of these wonderful writers have shared their stories, which when I was very emotional reading them all, because they resonated so much with me and some of my own experiences. And I think it's just so wonderfully brave of them to share it. But the more people that do, and we get the word out, we can smash this idea of, I'm the only person, I don't want to talk about it, I'm fine, I'll be okay, I'll have another drink, it's going to be fine, I don't want to talk to my friends about it. This mentality has to stop. We have to say, it's okay, it's all right, it's not a sign of weakness. It really isn't. It's a sign of strength to reach out to other people who've been through something similar. And it's only from doing that that we can move forward and get through it.
Brilliant, yeah. And I think one of the phrase that struck a chord with me, what we need is empathy, not just sympathy, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's what, yeah, that's where Black Dog, I think, particularly helps, because you know that you're communicating with somebody who kind of has a sense of where you are at, even though it's all unique to all of us.
And I think empathy is terribly powerful. I don't think sympathy is. I never want to be felt sorry for, because there's nothing wrong with me. So I just, you know, wanted to be, I wanted someone to understand me. Yeah. So My Black Dog is, it's a free service. We're online. You can talk to a volunteer who gets it, who's been through it before, through a chat function. It's not a phone line, it's a chat function. And I did that on purpose, because it's so hard to say these things out loud. It is so hard to do that. So I've given you a softer landing. You can just type it instead. And it's, some of the conversations are beautiful and people feel heard and listened to. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic, and I'm hopeful that the book will help with that conversation.
Thank you so much.
Which is fantastic. Now, thank you, Niki, right? And we've got more time at the end. So My Black Dog, fantastic. So great book, great charity. Now, would you like a little taste of what this book's all about? Good. Oh God, because you're here, right? If it was a book launch, right, normally we'd probably have a lectern, I'm thinking, wouldn't we? Yeah, we'd have a lectern, we'd have a stage, probably a lectern, maybe the wine would be, the glass would be open, we'd have a spotlight even, maybe, right? We don't have any of that. But what we do have, we have 3 brave authors who've picked not something from an old chapter, and I thought it'd be nice because Jo's been the driving force behind this. And it must have been like herding cats, Jo. Some of the conversations, because one of the things that, again, is the theme from the book is men, I'm generalizing wildly here now, men communicate and act in very different ways to women, right? So when Jo's going, you need to be all over social media and you need to join our Facebook group, you need to, nobody's done any of that. We've only just got around to contacting each other now at the last minute and all the rest of it, right? So it must have been a nightmare. But I think if anybody's got a good insight into the author's minds and challenges, it's you, Jo. So I thought it'd be great to throw it back to you, and you can tell us how you've set up this little taste, just scratching the surface of what the book's all about. So back to Jo.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and thanks, Niki. Brilliant, lovely to hear more about My Black Dog. So that I really thought it would be nice, because obviously there are too many chapters, unfortunately, to cover. But obviously, the book will be out very soon, so you can buy and read the words yourself. And also the Facebook group. I'm just going to get a little plug in for that. So every Wednesday at 7 p.m. we do run a live 30-minute chat, 7 p.m. on the Facebook group at Being Fine Book. So please join the Facebook group. It's a lovely chat. It's an open chat. We always ask for a conversation because there are so many important topics within all these chapters. And what I thought I'd do is ask the authors, to share their favourite chapters, because they have all written so many remarkable words in this book that together make this incredibly collective and powerful message. So I'm really thrilled to let's start with my first author, who actually has been such a help with getting everything together. He's a great whiz. So he's the one that always does things first, Steve. He's always there on the nose, and he always gets things done first. And he's a bit of whiz at herding the cats behind me. Your words. Kapil Gupta, thank you for coming up tonight. And who was your first, your best chapter bit? And if you'd like to read out a segment of that chapter, that will be wonderful.
Thanks, Jo. I think it's so difficult to pick one chapter, because I think I'm still only halfway through, and I think what I want to say is, when I got the book and I started reading, I was just amazed when I started reading everyone's chapters, just how vulnerable everyone has been, and people have literally like poured their heart out, and that's been so impactful to me. And it was also kind of surprise as well, like we've been talking about this book for such a long time, and I hadn't read anyone else's chapters. So just like getting to know everyone at a deeper level was amazing too. But I've got Simon's chapter, which I believe is called A Mountain Climbed. And I won't read from the start, but I'll pick somewhere in the middle. It was not long before the darkest of dark thoughts would come. Let's face it, I had nothing to offer to the world. It would be better not to be here. I considered in detail, as I'm rather a practical man, how to exit stage left. Overdose? Jumping? No, this would not do. Can you imagine how it would be for the boys growing up knowing their father committed suicide? Make it look like an accident, I thought. Mess up the flat, make it look like a break-in, and run onto a knife. Oh God, no, far too painful. That Friday, a typical autumnal day, I finished work early, drove home, and like many other evenings, I did not turn into a cul-de-sac where I lived. I knew the dread I would feel stepping into the flat, so I would sometimes drive for miles before returning. Today was different. I kept driving. I drove all the way to Snowdonia, to a lovely place called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Betwisi Coed.
Very close. Betsy Coed.
Betsy Coed. And I booked into a wonderful B&B. The next morning, I came downstairs, had breakfast, gathered my things, and filled in the mountain register with my estimated time of return. I started my ascent on the Watkins track, and no intention of returning that day. My teenage boys would be blissfully unaware their father had committed suicide. Instead, the slightly stubborn man went for a walk up a mountain, got lost, and succumbed to hypothermia. After all, that was far less painful than a knife. Apparently, dying of hypothermia was not that bad at all. I was finally going to get a good night's sleep and silence the negative voices in my head. Nearing the top was treacherous that day. It sounds silly, but I was scared as the weather was so bad. I was floundering around in knee-deep snow when out of the bleakness a man dressed in full mountain gear turned up. Seeing I was in trouble and badly prepared for the conditions, he suggested we buddied up and walked down the mountain to safety. He will never know what he did for me that day. However, that was the wake-up call I needed. As Joseph Campbell states in The Hero's Journey, it was my call to adventure. It was like a slap around the face with a freezing cold North Atlantic cod. Scared and alone back in my flat, I rang the local doctor and made an appointment. I remembered to this day walking into Dr. Silver's room. I'm a big, strapping man, but to Dr. Silver, I must have looked like a scared, lost puppy. So, Mr. Walker, it looks like we need to talk, he said. And I burst into tears. And there I was for well over my 5 minutes. With love, empathy, and compassion, he sat and listened to a blubbering, snotty mess of a man. This was the first time I have ever shared how I truly felt, and it felt like the universe had been lifted off my shoulders. Once he had referred to me to a psychotherapist, he let me out of the side door to save my embarrassment of being seen by the waiting patients. I stepped into dappled sunlight shining through the autumn trees. That moment felt magical, as if I could have walked on the clouds. Someone just listening to me for 20 minutes had changed my life. Thank you, Dr. Silver, from the bottom of my heart. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Kapil. Beautifully read. And Simon, can you give us a hi? I've heard your voice. I couldn't find you.
Hi, a little bit emotional.
Oh, we're emotional too. Can we all send Simon a big hug? Hi, Emily. Oh,
Bless you, Simon.
bless you, Simon.
No, it's fantastic. I've been actually spending the last few days trying to track down Dr. Silver, and so I am in contact with the surgery he's working at now, and he's retiring next week. So, or next year, sorry. So he will be getting a copy of the book.
Oh, well, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to read your words. And
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Wow. Oh, thank you. Fantastic. Great. I'd love to bring us on to our next author who's going to introduce his favourite chapter and his words. Let's now go to Johnny Jensen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Jo, for asking me to do this. Thanks, everyone, for being here, all our authors and our guests. I've picked a chapter which you can take the author's problem out and replace it with what's going on for you yourself and your life. And I know that the greatest concern is worrying what other people are going to think and how we're going to let everyone down, and just blindly ploughing on without realizing how much we're struggling. So I'm going to read, and it's nice actually, I didn't know he was not going to be here, but our Australian author, Jamie Marlew Thomas, from his chapter, Removing the Mask. As you grow older, you start to develop coping mechanisms, some good ones and some not so good. The not so good ones often led me to make poor choices and bad decisions that weren't beneficial for myself or the people around me. I would then feel terrible, ashamed of myself. I would beat myself up more, only increasing my anxiety and depression. This was a pattern that continued for decades. But in between episodes, I was highly functioning. I did well in all my roles, helping and supporting many. I revitalized culture in my community with my elders. I culturally mentored boys and men for 26 years. I also created an Earth Connection wellness modality based on ancient ways of knowing, doing, and being. In many ways, being highly functioning was one of my biggest problems because everybody wanted me to keep my mask on. They wanted me to keep pretending to be fine so that they could keep benefiting. My mask served them as much as it served me, if not more. My drinking increased, trying to hide from the pressure of being me. Then one day, my mask didn't serve anymore. I spiraled out of control. I couldn't have stopped it even if I'd tried. Everything came crashing down around me, but I didn't care anymore. I couldn't keep living with the mask. It was literally killing me. Finally, I was able to find the courage and strength to break free from my own shame, my own fears, my own guilt. I stopped being fine and asked for help. It's only been 12 months since I took off the mask and showed my world who I really was. During this time, I've really had to dig deep and explore to rediscover who I was at the very core of my mind, body, and spirit. I realized I was suffering from imposter syndrome. I was telling people how to be healthy, how to be well, how to take care of themselves and their families, when in my own life, I wasn't doing or being any of this. I wasn't practicing what I was preaching. I couldn't keep prioritizing other people's culture and health over my own. I needed to heal so that I could help others. And so began my journey to rebuild who I was as a human being of Mother Earth. I wore the mask for so long because I was scared people wouldn't love me if they knew all of me with all my flaws. Many of those that I gave so much to didn't stand by me, and my worst fear was realized. But there were many who stayed. I'm forever grateful for the people who've stood by me, who've helped me become the person I am today. Hitting rock bottom is a truly transformational experience. It is humbling to say to your loved ones, family and friends who time and time again have reached out to extend their hand of help in hope that you will become a better version of yourself and that you will try to learn to love yourself. It takes time to heal old wounds. The scars on my spirit and body will always be there, but now I find myself wearing them with pride. They represent my journey and the battle I've had to go through to be a healthier, more present and connected human being. Now I find myself looking into the mirror, telling myself, I am worthy, I am lovable, and that I have a person on this planet. I have a purpose on this planet, sorry. I also find myself having a little dance, smiling and celebrating this new version of myself who I have fallen in love with. One thing I have to say to other men out there in society that for centuries has told us that we need to be brave and stoic, to hide our feelings, to not cry or admit to our weakness, is that this is so wrong for the human spirit. We need to release our fears, our anxieties and emotions, to explain rather than hide them. Please reach out to family, friends and professionals before it's too late, before it eats away at your soul. I still have bad days, but now instead I say, that's fine.
Thanks, Johnny. Oh, beautiful, very powerful. And like you say, it's so relatable for so many reasons. I'm sure everyone here listening can relate to a part of their life where they did that. So thanks very much. Thank you. And finally, we'll come on to our last author, Mark Pitcher, who is going to talk about his favourite chapter. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jo. Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for echo those words for being here, part of our launch. I've chosen a chapter by Rob Goddard. Rob's a retired businessman, now investor, speaker and philanthropist, and his chapter is called Suicide to Success, and I'm going to read it in two parts. Here's the first part. And we enter the story in 2010 on the 125th floor of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. We got to the 125th floor and wandered around the viewing platform with a multitude of tourists. I asked my friend to take some pictures of me looking out at the Dubai scenery and then excused myself to go to the bathroom. I told him I wouldn't be long. Instead, I went around the tower looking for a way to the outside of the building. The viewing platform had thick floor-to-ceiling glass, so I had to find an exit that workers would have used to gain access to the outside of the tower. I quickly found a fire exit and tentatively tried the handle. It was locked. Who on earth locks a fire exit door? Someone had locked this one, and so my attempt at suicide that day had been thwarted. I went back to my apartment, dejected, miserable, and angry with myself. The stockpile of more than 700 tablets looked more appealing. I'm not sure why, but I decided to call a friend of mine back in the UK. Alex and I had met at a business networking event just at the time I'd first gone self-employed. There was an immediate connection between us, and over a couple of years we'd become good friends. He was and still is a business coach, and crucially was the only person who kept in regular contact with me after I left for Dubai. He contacted me on a regular basis to see how things were going. I look forward to our chats, although I didn't really share the full picture. I just tried to be upbeat. But following my thwarted suicide attempt earlier that day, I offered to fly him out to Dubai for a few days so that we could speak in person and at length. To my surprise, he jumped on a plane and we sat poolside at my apartment for hours on end. We also laughed incessantly. It was fun sharing time together. He also told me off when he peered in my fridge and challenged me with, "I can't see anything green, only meat and alcohol." Alex asked me one question that changed the direction of my life. He asked, "What do you really want to do with your life, Rob?" Immediately I said I didn't know. But not put off by that, he persisted with, "But if you did know, what would it look like?" What a great question. I then began to describe what I saw and said that I wanted to go back to my first love of mergers and acquisitions, with more prodding and visualizing and planning a potentially happy future. I subsequently made the decision to return to the UK and start again. I went on to envisage that by 2020, I would create a business worth more than 5 million, move somewhere in the southern Mediterranean and teach English to children from a double-decker bus with the woman of my dreams. With renewed hope and a clearer vision, I managed to pitch and secure 14 investors for my new business venture. I was then able to afford to pay myself a salary for the first time in 3 years. It had not been easy building a business from nothing, but with unwavering determination, that fledgling business has now grown into a multi-million-pound company across 2 continents employing 25 people. Nevertheless, I still had to kill a few ghosts from the past. So 3 years ago, I set up a sister company in Dubai. The first time around in Dubai, I was a beaten man. But now, when I came out of the airport terminal, I have a smile back on my face in a country that so nearly became my last resting place. I now move to the second part of the story, which is brings us to 2020, to the present day. Looking back, my resilience, the strength I found to fight back and triumph over adversity, came from speaking and sharing with others. Today, I know there's no point in running away, even in the darkest hour. It's healthier to just face up and reach out in dark times. My relationship with money has changed too. In fact, I'm in the process of setting up a charity in order to embark on a new 10-year plan to create a living legacy, an altruistic journey to make a difference to other people's lives through a multitude of charitable causes for those in need. My family's expanded. I now have 6 children ranging from the age of 25 down to 6, with 2 sets of twins in that beautiful tribe. Had I been successful in my suicide attempt, I would have been robbed of all of them. I would have robbed all of them of a future without their father. I would also never have gotten together with Christina, the woman of my dreams. She's originally from Albania. So I'm feeling a bit emotional. She's originally from Albania, and we have a second home there on the beach overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. We bought a boat too and still plan to buy that double-decker bus soon. Retirement to me is being able to do the things I choose to do with the people I want to be with. I can't wait for this 10-year vision to unfold, building a charitable foundation with the woman of my dreams and experiencing the joy of making a difference in life. One final thought. If you're struggling right now, and if you're in a dark, cold place, I urge you to find an Alex. Speak up and ask for help. You will not be a burden on anyone. Don't let isolation win. Make that call now to a trusted person. They will be honored that you've shared something so personal with them and that you trust them. Don't believe the lie in your head that the world will be a better place without you. Dozens of people will be devastated by you taking your own life, and that will affect them for the rest of their lives. Suicide is a long-term solution to a short-term problem. Alternatively, if life is okay for you, consider becoming an Alex to someone that you suspect is going through a hard time. Go for a coffee or lunch. Give them time, space to open up. Let them know you're there for them, anytime, any place. Give them your listening ear, not instant fixes. You could be that one person they need to help turn things around. There is no better feeling to know that you've been instrumental to having saved someone's life, just like my friend Alex.
Thank you, that's incredibly brave of you to read those words. We're feeling for you, because obviously, without going into your story tonight, but that was incredibly brave of you to read that out. Thank you so much. It's a shame Rob isn't here. I don't think he's here unless he's calling himself Joanna or Suzanne, which can happen on these calls. So maybe he's here randomly, but bless you for reading out some powerful words for anyone, but especially for you. So bless you.
Well done. Well, first of all, because you're all muted, so I'll give a round of applause on everybody else's behalf to all the to all the authors, but B, to the people who read, and Mark in particular, because I know how challenging that must have been. So well done, my friend. So that's great. So let's just change the mood now, why don't we? So Yo, thanks for coming, everybody. We've still got a bit of time. So what I'd like you to do now, before we introduce you to a very special guest, who I'm going to get Jo to introduce us to, if you've got any questions for the authors or about the book or anything like that, I'll get please post them. Now, Capel, you're going to manage this for me, aren't you, my friend? So post them in the chat box, any questions you might have. And I'm going to say this once, because Jo, say it again. The best thing you can do, if this has moved you, and if it hasn't moved you, what's wrong with you, right? If it hasn't moved you, best thing you can do is post on Amazon. Get the book, buy the book, get other people to buy the book. It's for a great cause, and post a review. Because you know how people shop on Amazon, don't you? You're like, look, what do other people say? Post a genuine, heartfelt review. That's the best thing you can do in terms of helping us with this project and changing the world for the better, right? So think about some questions you've got them. Shall I throw it back to you, Jo? We're going to go to our special guest now. I think we should, don't you?
We are. Do you know, he's sped in, which is very appropriate, and I'll come on to that in a second. Why? So we met at an event four odd years ago, I think, and it was fun enough about mental health. And he was headlining along with Ruby Wax, Frank Bruno, to name but a few sort of superstars in the world of, you know, true celebrities is what I call people like that. You know, the real ones, not the ones that just end up on some random island trying to date or something. Anyway, so our guest is a massive, our family are a massive fan of him because of what he achieved when truly the chips were down and everyone was saying, you can't do that. And obviously, like so many superstars that have achieved incredible things, he's also had quite a journey himself with mental health, which he shared that day. I hope he will share a bit today, but he has sped in from traveling around, which he has done today. So I'm really, really grateful to introduce, with huge love and appreciation, I called him Michael, but actually it's Eddy the Eagle Edwards, Olympic champion skier and just bloody amazing soul and spirit. Good to see you, Mike stroke Eddy.
Hello, Jo.
Hi, it's lovely to see you.
It's been a while. I can't remember if it was Bath or Bristol there at one of those conferences and stuff, but it was great. Yes,
it
and
was.
I still wear the colours you recommended as well.
Well, someone listens to me then. That's nice to know.
Oh yes. I still remember. And I still think, what would Jo think about this colour?
I'm in your head. Scary.
Yes, all the time.
So thanks for coming along. I mean, obviously, I don't think you've had the chance to get the book yet, or maybe you have in the round. You've been very busy. But if you could just, you know, I know you've worked so much with mental health in the past. You've had one hell of a journey yourself. So please do share a little bit of whatever you'd like to share with us tonight.
Sure. I have, you know, I do a little bit of work with mental health charities as much as I can, either go along and do a talk about my life and things like that, and try and help as much as I can. But I suppose briefly about my life, a lot of people think when I went to Calgary, which was 33 years ago, and I started ski jumping probably about 20 months before that. But a lot of people think that's when it started for me, but I think it really started when I was a little boy, because I think a big part of my life and why I became the person I am was because of middle child syndrome. I have an older brother and a younger sister. So my older brother, he's only 18 months older than me, so not much older. He was the firstborn, the golden child. He could do no wrong. And then my younger sister was the daughter that my mum had always wanted. And then there was poor little me in the middle. And I had to fight tooth and nail for any kind of attention. But that gave me tremendous resilience and tenacity, which really came out well in the film, because I used that resilience and that tenacity in such a positive way to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. And then a few years later, I used to go into watch Ski Sunday and loved watching that. And then I went to school, went on a school ski trip and actually started skiing. And I loved it. I loved having skis on my feet. I did loads of different sports, but skiing was just so wonderful. And I got really into skiing and racing. And then I told all my family and friends that I wanted to go to the Olympics, and they just laughed and they said, it's impossible. It cannot be done. You come from Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. You've got no snow. You've got no skiing, nothing, no trainer, no money, no equipment. But the more that people told me that I couldn't do it, the more that inspired me to prove them wrong. And I proved everybody wrong by getting to those Olympic Games in Calgary, 14 years later. So yeah, it was great. And the film, they did such a great job with that. The film is about 85% true, but it only represents probably about 20%, maybe 25% of my life as a skier and as a ski jumper. But what they did use, they did really, really well. They really captured the heart and spirit and essence of my story. And it just goes to show that, if you just put your mind to it, you can achieve, great things, which is why I try and do as much as I can for mental health and, mental health charities. So.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing. Thank you.
So nice to meet you. I'm a huge fan. I watched you live back in the day. Bless you.
We all did. And obviously, it's been amazing. I mean, obviously anything with Hugh Jackman is great for me personally. But no, it's a beautiful, and I've, we were all very well when we saw your movie, that obviously it's only a tiny fragment of it, and there's so much since. But obviously you do support mental health charities. Tell us about what you do with that, and is there anything we can all help you with here? Because we've got My Black Dog here, which is an amazing charity. But yeah.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Clarke,
I'm my black dog person.
Oh, so me?
Yeah. So
right.
What are you doing now with your work, and what is there anything we can do to help you in support of you?
Well, not really, because I just get approached by charities, lots of different charities. They could be children's charities, disability charities, and mental health charities. And I think most of my work involves going along to a function that they have and saying a few words like this here on Zoom. In fact, all my work, because of the COVID thing, it just abruptly stopped. So I had about probably 150 events last year that were cancelled, and probably most of this year will be cancelled too. But in a way it's nice, because it's given me a bit of a rest. It's given me time to recharge my batteries, because since the film was released, 4.5 years ago, I've been mega busy traveling all over the world, speaking at events like lunches and dinners and conferences and charity events, and I was doing between 8 and 12 events a week. And after a while, when you talk about your life that much, you just think, oh, I've had enough. So in a way, I'm actually glad that this has happened, because I can sort of step back a little bit, take a rest, recharge my batteries, and now I'm looking forward to getting out there and talking about my life again. So yeah, if charities come along and ask me if I can come along to their event and say a few words, and whether it's 10 minutes about my life or about something specific, I'll do that. What I like to do is Q&As, because then I can talk about things that I ordinarily wouldn't talk about, because I have kind of a set speech, and so depending on whether I want to talk for 10 minutes or for 2 hours, because I can talk for 2 hours, I like talking. What I like to do is Q&As, because then I can talk about anything that they're interested in asking. So yeah, if you get invited to go along to an event to raise money, then if I'm free, you know,
Oh.
I'll pop along and say a few words. And that's what I try and do is talk about my life, and then people can take from it what they want. Because, you know, lots of people are inspired by lots of different things. And so by telling my life, they can take what they think is important to them about things. So
Brilliant, thanks, Mike. And what you've really highlighted, I think, is really resonant throughout the book, is that there's a point sometimes when we realise actually everything that's happened for us, happened to us, sorry, is for us and not to us. So, you know, and you really kind of, that's part of your message, isn't it? That it feels really tough at the time and hideous, but you know, it all helps us to become what we are with the next phase of our lives. And your story very much
absolutely. And when I think that the worst point when I was at my most down, because I very rarely get down at all, but the worst point for me was when I was divorced, when I was going through this separation and divorce. But I went back to dancing, because I used to dance before I got married, and dancing was really, really great, because it meant that I could just think about dancing that night. I didn't have to think about anything else except dancing. And so I ended up dancing 4 or 5 nights a week. And if I wasn't doing a speaking job somewhere, I'd be going dancing, because I just loved it. And that really, really helped. So, you know, if you do feel down, find something that you love to do and get out and do it as much as you can. And that kind of helps bring you out of that deep hole that you feel you're in. And, you know, it gives you something positive to look forward to.
Oh, fantastic. So we're going to see you on, you haven't been on Strictly yet, have you?
No, they have asked me a few times if I would do Strictly. And so far I've managed to say no, because I've been so busy with talks and doing TV work and things like that. So far I've managed to say no. And also dancing is my kind of secret passion, and I want to keep it a secret for as long as I possibly can. But one of these days I will do it, because I'd love to learn other types of dancing. So one of these days, you know, you might see me in sequins and running around or pirouetting around the dance floor on a TV screen somewhere soon.
Eddie, it's a
So
done.
Eddie,
who wants Eddie on Strictly? I might actually watch it all the way through then.
Yeah, I've never watched Strictly, actually. No, I've never watched it myself.
Eddie, I've just got to say to the host tonight, right? There's so many comments of love for you and how you've inspired people, right? Surely you should be doing that thing, Dancing on Ice, anyway, I was thinking, right? But I'll just read out one comment for you here, Eddie, right? One of my nicknames at school was Eddy the Eagle, as I had a ski jump nose. It was humiliating at the time, but I was also usually inspired by what you achieved. I look forward to reading everyone's story too, as I've been struggling recently, right? So there you go. You just never know you're going to inspire, do you, really, in the most incredible ways. Yes, there's lots of love here. I think one of our authors is a massive fan. Johnny said he was inspired by you too, right? So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'm just, brilliant, right? Look round for Eddy the Eagle.
Thank you very much.
Pearl, I'm going to come to you. What have we got? Any questions? Other questions that we need to answer now? Because we've got a few minutes for questions.
We've got a couple of questions. So the first one is from Claire. How do you recommend we offer or signpost people who are isolated but resistant to asking for help because of the stigma and failure associated with therapy and asking for help, especially as a man?
Authors, over to you, Johnny.
There are a number of ways, right? And this book, and this isn't a push for the book, but this book is suddenly one of the most accessible things that you could do for someone, because it is amazing. I'm getting goosebumps saying it, right? It is amazing to read different stories, and one could be about their fears of divorce, or what was going on in their relationship, what was going on with childhood angst, or what was going on with a suicide in their family. And you're kind of like wondering, where's this story going? And then in every single one, there's a moment and it just, boom, hits you. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. And it's just such an accessible way to allow people to create a window into their own emotions. And because each story ends on a pathway out, and again, not every pathway is the same. From a building site to a boardroom, there's an opportunity for whoever you give this book to just go like, oh wow, Okay, yep. And you know, in the fullness of time, there'll be an audio version or whatever, and that makes it really easy. But as someone who works with other men, you know, I know that persevering with someone who you know is under the weather, and I don't mean like badger them, but just be there for them, because it's so easy for people to say, how are you? I'm fine. Okay. And then like, well, they said they were fine. But if you get that feeling inside, just be there for them. My best friend took me climbing. You know, he's not a good guy with words. You know, he's like, come climbing. He took me climbing. Like, so whatever your thing is, take them and do that. Take them to a football match. Take them for a game of golf. Take them, don't go and get drunk somewhere, but like, do your thing for them, and just keep on being there for them, because eventually something will happen and they'll just fall into your arms.
Brilliant. Any more questions?
Sorry, I forgot. I was so
professional as ever.
It was like that answer was just like so on point. Thanks, Johnny. Second question's from Amanda. Had any of the authors written before? And if not, what was the catalyst for getting involved now and sharing their stories? Maybe Jo can answer that, because everyone spoke to Jo. They was like, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah. So no, not everyone has. I think we've got at least half a dozen new authors. In fact, more than that, just adding the figures off my head. And obviously, Kapil, you can put yourself in this boat, because this is your first publication. But I know a lot. What has spurred a lot of people to write is the need, two-pronged really. The need to recognise and validate it happened. And I recommend to anyone to write the words down, because it actually enables you to say, yes, this did happen. And by doing that, it can help us move on and recognise what has happened and help us deal with it and move on. And secondly, it's also obviously the pivotal point, and one of the points of this book from day one has been to encourage others not to make their mistakes, encourage others not to do the same, and that real desire to help other men, to prevent other men and other women and partners to appreciate what men go through. And I know one of our authors here tonight has said that about her husband, that she wished her husband, they'd had the book to read, because it would have helped them. But Kapil, this is your first, obviously you've just done a TED talk as well, so it's all happening for you right now. But what was your, from the horse's mouth, what was your first point of booking?
Yeah, I've worked with men, women, and I would say a lot with men over the last 7-8 years. And just my own experience of being that man and sort of getting aligned with my own emotions and feelings and sensitivity. And then I speak to a lot of men and I see this just like all over the place. So when, and I had been thinking about like some way of putting this thing out into the world, and Jo approached me, and it just felt like the right time. And I think it was also, we were in the first lockdown, I think, when we started talking, and it just felt like the perfect time for this book, especially with, I think, with the lockdown, people who have done some kind of self-awareness work can at least, be in the lockdown, be with themselves, and because they have a good relationship with themselves at least. And even then, that is a struggle. But if you're someone who's, living on your own and not have a good relationship with yourself, and not sort of used to sharing your emotions and feelings, it can be a devastating time. So I think for that reason, I was compelled. I was like, yes, I'm just going to write. That was my motivation.
Yeah. Thanks, Kapil. I mean, I'm just going to ask, Raj is here, and Raj has been here and part of the journey from day one. Are you prepared to share a bit, Raj? What compelled you to join the project?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for for your shares, and in particular, Eddie, I'm a huge fan. So thank you. It's a real privilege to be part of this when you're here. Yeah, it was. I think Jo, you approached me in the summer or late summer, and I, you know, my journey. You know, I'm now at a point where I can safely, you know, respond to that question and say more than I'm fine. I can actually be honest about myself, and it's been so liberating for me. But I've seen that for so many people around me, particularly men, they're not able to do that. I've seen that for example, some of my friends, by seeing how I am, it's encouraged them to be open about themselves. And so I've seen that by changing and by showing I'm different, that has been of help to others. And so when you approached me about this, it seemed that this was a way that I can use my experience to perhaps help others to break out of that pattern of hiding and not being able to show themselves, and the suffering that results from that. So yeah, that was really my inspiration. I've not written, this is my first time writing, and I hadn't been considering writing a book, but it when you told me about the project, I really thought, yeah, this is something I can potentially contribute to.
Yeah, thanks, Siraj. That's lovely to share. But breaking the pattern is so important, isn't it? Because we don't want to pass it on to anyone. We want to try and fracture that to make sure it doesn't keep recurring, which unfortunately can happen. Obviously, we've got our two female authors here as well, Laurel Rond and Maria. We're also, well, yeah, me too, I suppose. Yes, we are kind of hitting the 7 o'clock timeline, which
let me wrap this up for you, if I may. Then.
There's one more question if you want to take. No?
One more question. Okay,
yeah.
well, this is our time for one final question. We are going to hang around, but formally, go on, fire away then. What is that final question? From
Tim, quick one. What new dialogue have you adopted which has helped you?
Okay. Any of our authors want to pick that one up? What new dialogue have you adopted that's helped you have this discussion?
I personally think, and this book has proved it, that we are all the same, that we are all intrinsically linked. And it doesn't matter where you are on the social ladder, economic ladder, or whatever, we are all going through the same human condition. And that, for me, just keeps me going on. It's not my weakness. It's just part of being human.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Simon, because sorry, just because obviously a lot of celebrities write their books, and you know, a lot of politicians have written their books about mental health, and they're so valid. But I really wanted this book to be just us, just normal people sharing, because that's what this is all about. I'm just going to mention, Steve, before you finish off, that the book will be fully launched the middle of this week. We've just had to do a little bit of last minute editing, so we did have a little tiny mini launch, and it will be out in a few. So I will email you all when it's fully fledged, and obviously when, especially for Steve, he just wants to get hands on the real copy, which this isn't quite it. On that note, I'd like to just acknowledge that Sarah Holcroft is here. She is my absolute superstar, superwoman, Wonder Woman, and any other names that I can come up with. Almost as much of a champion as you, Eddie, Mike. But she has helped me and some get our book together, and she is an absolute angel. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Sarah, for your patience, your fortitude, your expertise and skill, because you are definitely the machine in the nicest of ways behind this book. So thank you, Sarah Holcroft of Gold Press Publishing. So if you want to reach out to her. Yeah, so we will let you know the minute it's landed. So back to Steve. Thank you for doing a great job, Steve.
We're going to wrap. Well done. So we're going to wrap up for me. That's remarkable that we managed to stick to some sort of a agenda and time. If it had been a proper book launch, we'd be hitting the wire now, which we can do. So we're going to close formally, right? So I'm just going to thank. Well done. I'm going to thank all the authors. Well done, especially the first-time writers. Excellent, good work. And the ladies, you didn't get. The men had all the conversations tonight. didn't they? But ladies, female authors, you get a chance to shout your mouth off informally now if you want. You can open your microphones, right? So the moment you can open your mics, if you want to hang around, have a drink, have a chat, you can. If you need to go, thank you to the audience for turning up to this book launch, right? Being fine, the other F word. And now, as I think our readers in particular demonstrated, definitely.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, hilarious. That's too funny.
Oh, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Was I not on mute?
Just
Unmute. I can't do it.
Is that-
Do it. I'm sorry, folks. It was all going so well.
God, wait.
It was all going
Unmute.
so well. Steve,
How do you unmute?
Steve, you need to unmute yourself.
Was he unmuted himself?
It
We have
keeps
to
turning
do this
myself
for
off, right?
We have to do this to Steve now and again because he likes to chat.
Unmute yourself,
Steve,
Steve.
you have to unmute yourself. It won't
Unmute
work.
yourself.
Leave it, Marie. That's it. Yeah, you have to. There we go.
Unmute.
Everyone can unmute themselves now. So if you want to stay behind and have a little chat,
Bring your
then
dogs.
please do. Bring your dogs. I've got Nala here. Sorry, Steve, that wasn't the plan. It was going so well. Hold on. It
Mute
won't.
all and then unmute.
There we go. Right, you should all
There
get
we go.
yourselves now.
There
There we go. That wasn't the plan.
Oh, right at the last
Sorry,
minute.
Steve.
Right at the
Thank
last
you.
minute.
No problems. It was going so well. You always got to have some, go kind of bit pear-shaped. So I don't know what you didn't hear, right? So
Nothing.
thank yous to everyone. We've finished formally now. If you want to hang around, you can. If you've got any questions, I was conscious that some of our female contributors didn't have a chance to talk about their contributions. So yeah, if you need to hang around, that's great. If you need to go, that's great. Thanks for your time. Go out and buy Being Fine.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yay! Bye.
Everyone.
Woo-woo. Thank you for coming.
Great.
Nice.
Thank you.
That is such a
Great
lovely-
readings, guys. Well done. The people that do the readings,
Thank
excellent
you.
work.
Reading.
It was a very emotional evening. Thank you. We've got all the feels here. You know, I had to stop my video at one point. Then you've got Eddy the Eagle pops up, and it's just a roller coaster of emotions. You know, it's just it's been amazing, and I can't thank you enough for supporting my black dog through this. It's been so wonderfully kind of you, for all of you, to all the contributors and everyone that's supporting the book. And you know, let's hope we can get the word out for my black dog and help as many people as we can.
Yeah. Oh no, fantastic, Nikki. And hopefully, I meant to mention at the end. Sorry, but yeah, I've asked everyone in the when they buy their ticket for tonight to donate a suggested £10 to my black dog. So if everyone can do that, and obviously there's a lot of people here that have gone through mental health issues, and if they would consider training, because you really like to have.
We've just taken on some more. We've actually, funnily enough, we've got our volunteer manager is here this evening. Mark, hello. So he's the man to talk to. But yeah, no, we're always looking for people who, you know, if you want to volunteer, and I think the volunteers get a lot of enjoyment out of it. You know, it's something that's uplifting for them, and you know, it's no secret that giving back and, you know, living through your experiences and then getting something joyful out of it is terribly rewarding. So that's what we're seeing with a lot of people. Plus, they're just a really lovely bunch of people. They are just a really nice group of volunteers. So I feel very blessed to have them as part of the pack.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, and Bob isn't here, unfortunately, but Bob's chapter is very much about that he was asked to help someone else, and that was pivotal in helping himself recover and grow and deal with his own issues. And it's so true, isn't it? That's helping others helps us to tune into ourselves. But no, I love your charity, and obviously it's thanks to Eddy Temple Morris. I did invite Eddy tonight, but he said he's having a day off, a well-deserved day off today.
Yeah, sure.
Because we connected on Instagram. But yeah, no, he's an amazing patron of yours, isn't he?
He is. He's a all round nice chap. But he's been shouting about us, which has been so helpful, because we are such a small charity. But you know, we are, ironically, during this lockdown, one of the more accessible charities, because we're online and we're free and we don't need a call center and all those factors. So it's actually we're very accessible for people who are struggling, and we know that people really are. So you know, it's we're a tiny little tugboat on a tidal wave of mental health, but we're going to do the very best we can.
Yeah, well,
Thank
hopefully we'll
you.
get some media for the book as well, and get us on radio or TV or something, or all the above.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful book, and like I said, it's been it was emotional reading it, and yeah, it's been a lovely event. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Oh, no,
everyone.
pleasure. What was your favourite bit, Niki? To put you on the spot here, what would you say?
Do you know, I found Simon's chapter to be very moving. I think it just resonated with me, just sort of thinking about, you know, when I'd had certain thoughts, how do you make it look like it's an accident? Like, how do you not hurt people by hurting yourself? Like, how do you do that? And it really sort of struck home. But you know, each chapter has their own individual story. Like, no one's the same, and they all had a little place in my heart, because I thought, gosh, I mean, you know, just so wonderful hearing everyone's stories, and bits of other people's stories really resonated with me too. You know, putting on the mask, trying to cover things up by sort of, you know, having another drink and pretending things aren't happening. You know, that's definitely guilty of that. But yeah, but Simon and I, we've been in touch, haven't we?
Fantastic.
Gonna,
yeah, well,
Yep.
I think it said, you know, any of these authors could be amazing, you know, working for you. I think, you know, I've always gone into our services.
Well, let's stay in touch, because everyone's doing such wonderful things, you know, such positive things and helping other people. And that's what we're all about at My Black Dog. It's not just one size fits all mind. We've got lots of different therapies that we send, you know, what to send people to. Simon's been doing sound therapy, and I think it's amazing. And it really does help. You know, you don't know what will help one person that may not help someone else. But if you've got the options there, then, you know, well, let's put them on the website. So if any of you got anything that you'd like to put on the My Black Dog website and try and help other people, just let me know.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, by my side, here's Maria, who's a very good friend, and we work together. And she works with spiritual health and to help you connect with yourself. And
yeah,
you know, so I think what you offer is really, really.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I wanted to address a question that somebody asked. Something that I always offer people is, if you want to talk, just give me a call. I'm on the other end of the phone. So just to let people know, if you need to talk, give me a call. If I can pick up, I will. And if not, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that's just that line of letting people know so that they can choose. And there was a question from Narelle as well that Narelle was happy to answer. Would you like to ask that?
Narelle, was that? Do you want to answer?
There was a question from Narelle.
Yeah.
Tracy wanted to hear from
Narelle. Yeah, I was that person who said, I've now just got through the end of my second marriage, and in each case my husbands were unable to communicate. Well, the first one communicated with his fists, which I guess is one way, but not terribly helpful. The other one just disengaged completely. And I'm a therapist. I'm used to dealing with trying to help people. But I was unable to break through on any level at all. And had I had this book, maybe I would have been able to do that. I'm still really struggling with how somebody can learn how to say things when they have been taught from the beginning not to. My second husband came from a family where you didn't do emotions at all. I remember I would ask them for dinner, and if they didn't want to come, they would say, I'll look at my diary. And I learned over the 36 years of this marriage that meant no, but they couldn't actually say yes or no. And my heart bleeds. It absolutely bleeds that there is such lack of trust inside somebody that they cannot reach out. And as somebody who's also suffered massively from depression through my life, and very close to suicide. All I can say is my heart goes out, and what I've learned from this book is the power of listening, is the importance of not trying to fix something. Too many therapists, and I include myself in that, have tried to fix a problem, and this book's taught me that that's not where it is. It's just simply being there for somebody. So that's what I have to say, and with massive thanks to everybody who has done what my husband's couldn't do, and in fact what I couldn't do for a very long time as well. So thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure that's such a relatable message. I think, sadly, So no, thank you for sharing. I'm really glad you came tonight, because I know you're literally just out of your marriage, so it's been very brave of you to be part of the book as well as to come tonight.
Well, what was so amusing, and it is funny, and I do laugh about it, is 3 days after this marriage ended, Jo and I were having a chat, and she said, "Do you fancy writing a book on men's mental health?" Which was ironic, to say the least of things. So I hid, as I do in mythology, but actually the story of Parsifal, which I write about in my chapter, is a fantastic explanation or symbol of how a boy grows to become a man, and that you talked about the male and the female in all of us, and I think it's a beautiful Celtic story if you want to read it. Some people call it Percival. The Celtic version is Parsifal, but it's all about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and how boys grow up wanting to be on their horse with their lance and fighting and winning the fair damsel without ever actually speaking or touching her. And it's brilliant. So thank you so much for asking me. It made me smile and gave me a wonderful route into this brilliant book.
Oh, fantastic. I think Maria's got something to share with you as well.
Just a really, really quick thing. So this past week, I've been supporting my husband going through a tremendous, huge amount of stuff. And from what I've listened to everybody say, I've just written a piece about when words are not enough. What I've decided to do is not come into sound, not come into words, but just hold his hands and look at him and maintain eye contact and just keep repeating every now and again, very gently, "I'm with you. I'm always with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm always with you." And he's gone through the hugest transformation this week. And I just think sometimes things are so very deep that it's not about getting men to talk, because I'm interested in supporting our men, but just that contact with the hands, and or even self to self, like my hand to my hand, and I'm with you. So I just want to give you that, because it's been so powerful this week with the man that I most love.
Yeah, no, it's going back to what Laurel's saying. So as a therapist, you're trying to solve problems and deal with it, and sometimes it just needs presence, doesn't it? So we've got we've got Rohit, Tracy. Lovely to see you, Tracy. Angelina and Jason. Shalini and Jason and Rohit all know each other, as does Kapil. Any of you guys got a quick question you want to ask any of us, or Denise, hello, and Deirdre, I don't know you, don't think, but lovely to have you. If anyone's got any questions, then do put them in the chat or raise your hand and come on. But it's been an amazing evening, and thank you so much for coming. Oh, Tracy's got broken mic, but yeah, no, lovely to see you, Tracy. Laurel and I have known you for a long time, so really lovely to get you guys in the loop again. And Jason, I know you're very kind of open with your honest questions, and that if you've got anything you want to throw at us and Rohit, then please do. But it's been a super evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been really nice to finish this off nicely. That's the trouble with the hour thing, isn't it? It comes to an end and everyone just dissipates. Kapil, has it been a good evening? Have you enjoyed it? That was a trick question. Just realised. No, it was rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm loving the intimacy of it all. Just like a bunch of strangers coming together and connecting over feelings and emotions. It's such a I think someone said, I think it was Simon who said, you know, like all the chapters in some ways are so different, you know, like people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different stories, but there's a thread that is common. And I felt that on the call today as well, right? It's like we're all here and it's just, we all just want to be seen and felt. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think Rohit's put a question in.
Yeah, it's a really good one, actually.
What else would you like to do to get this content out to a wider audience of men? It's almost like challenging.
Rohit does that.
Yeah.
So Rohit's the publisher, everyone who doesn't know Rohit. Fast Future Publishing is Rohit's company. But yeah, no, it's a good question because we've talked about various things, haven't we, Kapil? And you know, and there's a lot of potential here. I think in my experience of, you know, of publishing, it's what, my third own book and fifth book. I think sometimes you've got to let it just sit for a minute and then just decide where the energy feels like it's got to go next, because there are a gazillion things we could do with this. The weekly calls have proved to be a real joy, and I'd really like those to become more live and interactive, more like a Q&A. That was always my vision for it. And I think possibly a different platform than StreamYard, because I think it would be nice to almost embrace what we could do with that, because Q&As are so important, and you then create a real opportunity for a real connection with people that are just reaching out to the book rather than just authors to authors. But you know, TikTok is a good way of social media marketing, as well as many other forms. But yeah, no, we need to think about it, Rohit. Thank you for reminding us to do so,
and for mentioning the energy. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've had visions of having some kind of you know, conference like event, not conference, but an event which is all about being fine. You know, and I think that's something that will probably pop up again. Johnny, would you be interested in that kind of event as well?
Would I be interested in talking more?
Yeah, I think the answer may be yeah, right?
You know me better than that. Yes, I mean, I you know, the idea that obviously getting people together is all, you know, just talk about normal times, getting a room of people together, getting people inspired about a subject. I've been to events in London, you know, where they've had adventurers talk about their climb up Everest or you know, through a canoe down and through the jungle or whatever, and they're inspiring stories, but you can't personally feel like they're touching you really. And obviously the idea that people would, you know, spend their evening coming to an event where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about men's mental health, you'd have to, you know, it might not be so compelling, but blimey, I know if the room was full, they'd all be touched, moved and inspired by what they would hear, and go away with arguably much more tangible ideas and solutions to what's going on in their own life, men and women. You know, Laurel shared so wonderfully there about what would my marriages have looked like had my husband been okay, you know, or had we been able to communicate better. And there's so much divorce, there's so many broken families, and the word passion gets thrown around so easily, right? But you know, like, was just on my heart massively is people don't get married to get divorced. So why does it happen, you know? And if that helped people make better decisions in this first place, or helps them manage their relationship along the way, or even helps them separate in a positive fashion, then actually all those things fall down into mental health and understanding our emotions and speaking about them. So somewhere in amongst all that is a theme, is a thread that you could run along and people would follow. And increasingly, as men become more open to such conversations, and we are breaking through. You know, it's like the idea of that question got asked, what do you really want to do with your life? Men ask themselves that constantly, and but they don't know where to go for the answer. And so the more my work, Mark's work, Kapil's work, Simon's work, like we're providing outlets for men to connect with each other, with their feelings, with their vision for the future. And you know, it's not like blame or fault, but wow, when we all start waking up like this, then there's a brighter hope and future for relationships and equality and love and family and even forgiveness, dare I say it.
Yeah, no, that's a big part of it, is forgiveness for sure, and that's definitely part of acceptance, isn't it? I think they're the two words we struggle with the most when we're in chaos and difficult situations. Mark, it was lovely for you to read the chapter tonight of Rob. Incredibly brave, and very grateful for you to read that. How are you feeling? Are you okay? If you don't mind sharing in front of a couple of strangers. We're all connected now here, aren't we? Are you okay? How are you doing?
It was a pleasure. No, and it was lovely. It really, beautiful words, and actually, because I think in some ways, because and Steve referred to it, because we've all come together quite quickly and we're grabbing bits and looking for bits at short notice, then you don't have time, you almost don't have time, which is it's a good thing. So you're kind of reading something almost for the first time, and the power of it. So it was sort of blowing me away. And then you think, oh, 34 people are looking at me at the moment. So, but no, I feel really calm and really, I love the energy like that you've created. A lot of wonderful energy here tonight, and it's nice to be in your energy and in each other's energy. And I think, it's as Brené Brown would say, we've all stepped into the arena, haven't we? And it's nice to have a few people in with us, and hopefully, the book will do work its magic. Yeah,
supporting each other. Thank you, Mark. Narelle, Johnny, Kapil, have you read Mark's chapter yet?
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. As I shared with Mark, my little brother took his life, and just as I alluded to when I was speaking earlier, you start reading someone's chapter and you're like, okay, what's going to happen here, or what's he moaning about? What was like there's a kind of, each story sounds like, oh, this is going to be miserable, and then it hits you, it touches you, it's like boom, you're suddenly right there with that person, and getting goosebumps saying it, and it's every story is so relatable, and suddenly I was there with Mark, like, wow, I remember that moment, that knock on the door, that finding out, like, and people go through those struggles so often on their own, and just having the courage, maybe it's the courage in reading a story and seeing that person put it out there, or the courage in chatting to someone in a pub about it. It's an olive, not an olive branch. It's a lifeline to people in so many ways.
Well, one of the things I have learned through this rather strange and difficult year is that a lot of the problem is being stuck in our heads, and this is irrespective of gender. And what happened to me, as Johnny, you talked about us waking up, is I woke up to myself. It all got so awful that it was the black hole that was waking up to myself. And in the process of waking up to myself, I dropped down into my heart. And this is where feelings and emotions are. And since that time, things have felt and seemed so different. But when I go back into a bad time, I zap up to here. And I think that if we can learn to drop into our hearts, then we can far more easily share ourselves, share our energy, and talk about our emotions. And our culture is so head-based. Being heart-based, the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than thoughts, apparently. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this is a really important place to be.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
I absolutely just wanted to completely echo that. So my experience over the last 10 months has been exactly that, of going into my heart, and as someone that's lived in my head a lot, most of my life really, and then being, you know, brave enough to sort of open the trap door a bit and go, right, okay, and sit in the hole for a while, in the dark for a while, but it's yeah, and see where that leads you, you know. And it's, I'm already seeing just in a short time it can lead you to some amazing places, yeah. Which carries through into our work, isn't it? You know, I very much see my work these days, I say these days, my most recent work is being much more heart-led than head-led. Yeah. But yeah, you put it better than me, so I'll end there. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think that's really true. That we're kind of, I think that's where to work, don't we? Think that's how we work best, is using this. And I think, Phil, you touched on that in your chapter. It's all about achieving so you can have this, achieving so you can have that. So it's here and out there, isn't it? Here and out there. Let's work this to make all this outside of us look better, flashier, bigger, and none of that relates to what's going on within, which is obviously a lot of your work, Ravel, isn't it? Really, what you've done in the past is your heart-centered work, isn't it? Very much about energy and yeah.
I mean, I just say body-centered rather than just heart-centered. I think
That's a really lovely distinction.
for me, I was just very disconnected from my body and most of the things that I was doing. And it's funny that Mark and I are on this call, and we are here. We go way back, sort of as colleagues, you know. And I think pretty much my entire life was driven by what's next, where am I going next, you know, whether it's job, whether it's a title, whether it's money, and very disconnected from my body. So and when I got connected with my body, it's like, who am I? You know, that was the question. And as I learned more about myself, who am I think what I wanted to do started to shift. And it wasn't, and then I think a big part, I think my personal experience is this idea of how we define our self-worth. It's a big, I think it's such a core part, especially for men, I think, but more so I think everyone nowadays. But like 99.99% of men I work with, pretty much all we do is to prove our self-worth externally. And it's a continuous struggle for me even now. Like, there's this book I read a while ago, Barbarians at the Gate, and the whole idea is that, like, our culture or society is like the barbarians who are always knocking at the gate, trying to lure you back into ego-driven, self-worth-driven things. And the practice is to stay centered in your body and true to yourself. And I think that's my practice. And I'm sure there's plenty of times that I'm off the beam, off the rails. But my practice is to try and just stay centered and sort of follow my intuition in my body as much as I can, and then let the mind figure out how to follow my intuition in my body. rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's really important, especially right now. I think, you know, that there's so many people that are being led by what's coming from outside in, and it's really important that we really tune into our intuition and what our true self thinks and believes, not just all the messages that are coming into us. You know, it's such a difficult time anyway, isn't it?
I don't know. I think I mean, it's definitely been difficult for a lot of people. I wouldn't sort of argue with that. I have seen this last year as an amazing opportunity to just go inwards and be with myself. And for that, I think it's been such a gift. I don't think I would have been able to give myself this much time unless it was for lockdown and just like being, you just don't, like, there are no choices left, you know, like there's no external stimulus for us to engage with this or that. And especially being in London, there's like 1,001 things that you can do to get your mind off of yourself. And over the last 11 months, we've been forced to just say, no, well, there's nothing to do. All you can do is go out and go for a walk and back again at home within these four walls, look inwards. And I think that for me, especially, it's been a beautiful gift. There's so many places in my own psyche that I've been able to look at where I would have anxiety, I would, you know, worry about things, and all of that pressure is just gone, you know. So I that's just my personal way of looking at it. It's like it's been such an amazing gift this year. I don't think we will have this time in our lifetime.
No, probably not. Yeah, well, I would agree. I mean, we wouldn't be here now if this hadn't happened. I wouldn't have become a publisher last year, and I wouldn't have written a book, and I wouldn't have be on this book now. So I'm totally with you. I'm kind of more thinking of the collective, you know, that a lot of people are struggling right now, but I'm totally with you. I'm really grateful and glad this has happened in a way. For myself, it's been an incredibly powerful time to be centered and still. And when you can be still, you can be creative. I think it's harder to be creative when you're on the go all the time. So no, I totally agree that we can do all this. And also, obviously, tonight we had a caller from Australia, you know, and we've embraced this. I mean, it's not ideal. You can get Zoom gloom quite easily, but you know, it is a definitely a blessing, and I feel really grateful for this last year. I feel it's been like an endless Christmas present almost. There's just gift after gift. I've just done an immunity month, you know, a whole month talking about immunity, live shows with people around the world, and I wouldn't have done that. There's no way I wouldn't have even considered it, let alone managed it along with everything else I've been managing. But you know, it's definitely a blessing. Yeah,
I'd like to thank you for having the vision and hearing the call and listening to the zeitgeist and just doing something that I really feel is going to be a world movement, and for having such a compassionate and loving heart to hold this. I think you are a miracle.
Oh, thank you, lovely.
Yeah, I echo that.
Getting emotional. Big hugs.
Social distance. Social distance.
We're all rebels in Brighton, you know. Come on down, Camille.
Yes, I'm planning. I was talking to Luca. We're looking for a place down there for sure.
Nice.
I've been trying to convince him. I did a good job.
Fantastic.
I thought I pitched it.
Yeah, Luca found a really nice place, not in Brighton, but slightly outside, I think. I can't remember where it was. But so we might come down and for a viewing.
Come down and have a cruise round. I'll meet you for coffee at my favourite cafe.
I'll take you to all the coffee things. In fact, everyone will go get coffee drunk.
So I didn't mention this, and I meant to, but I've earmarked the place for our proper book launch. Gorgeous. In the summer.
Nice.
This beautiful place right on the beachfront, and there will be a proper book launch. Because when you write proper books, you've got to have a proper book launch. So that will happen. Johnny, you know what I'm talking about at
Of course, yeah.
at Rockwater. So that will happen in this late spring. Let's do it. Let's do it. We come down, Laurel, all the way from the Lincolnshire Wolds. We come down. Oh, good.
Who doesn't want a weekend in Brighton? Come on, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, Jason and Rohit will come. Deirdre, you're
Party
invited
weekend.
too. It'd be great to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, that will happen. Well, I think we'll
Thank
finish there,
you.
guys. It's been such a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being there and being on this journey with me.
Yeah.
Really great for your support. Yeah, and let's see what happens with the book now. Already we're doing so well without even fully launching. So we've got a couple of days to tweak the book. I don't know if you guys authors have heard my message tonight, but we've had to pause the book because we've had to tweak it. But in a couple of days it will be fully fledged and launched. So we can.
Will the ISBN stay the same? And the
Yeah, no,
reviews, or-
everything's exactly the same.
Okay,
Just
cool.
that one of the
Where it says
chapters
on
is
Amazon.
being
Sure.
is being tweaked just for a fair amount of
Will
reason.
all of the reviews still be?
Yeah, no, it all stays
Thank
exactly as
goodness
it
for
is.
that.
It's just almost taking it off and just edit it. We can do this, and it's the joy of publishing online, really. You can tweak away and then take it off and then re-advertise it. So no, it's all good. It just needed to be done, unfortunately.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay, Jo, thank you.
Oh, take care,
Thanks for being
everybody.
here.
Good to see everyone.
Fantastic night. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Kisses, hugs.
Bye. You too. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Congratulations.